And we're recording.
Well, good morning. Still morning. Good morning. I'm seeing everyone kind of load in. Just give you another second to set everything up. All right. Well, good morning. I'm Sarah Pearson, and I am the Executive Vice President with the Chamber. Thank you very much for attending today's International Business Alliance. This is a group that we were meeting once a month at Lynn University. They've been our host, our partner since the beginning of this program. And now we're virtually meeting, but I'm proud and happy to say that my friend Barbara's on this call to talk to you about Lynn. But before we do that, I'm going to ask Chastity to say a few words, like some housekeeping items as it relates to using Zoom. So Ms. Chastity.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the International Business Alliance presentation. We're super excited for you to be here today. Just want to give you a couple of little housekeeping segments here. So if you go to the chat box on your Zoom toolbar, you can ask all your questions there. And then I just need to let you know that we are recording this presentation. So we will have the presentation available to you on our YouTube channel in our events and resources playlist for you to check out later or share with your friends if you need to. And just remember, any questions that you have, you can just put them in the chat box and we'll do Q&A at the end of the presentation. Enjoy.
Thank you, Chastity. So raise your hand or click on the little icon down at the bottom that shows if you've attended an IBA before. Because I do see some familiar faces. There's a lot that have attended. So if we were in person, the first thing you would see is this beautiful campus of Lynn University. And then Barbara would give you her beautiful smile and welcome as our host. So Barbara, would you like to say a few words about the university and about our partnership?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I miss seeing everyone. So Lynn, we will resume on-ground classes starting in August, which is very exciting. And over the summer, we actually had double enrollment for our summer classes, which was amazing. It's going to look a little different in the fall, but we're coming back. And normally we have students here attending with us. And I don't know if he's on the call. Filippo, are you on the call? Okay, I guess.
I don't see a Filippo, but there's some phone numbers that don't have names.
So he might be on the call. So usually we get to introduce, the student introduces themselves and what they want to do. So with that, I'm excited that Marnie's here. She's a new friend who I think we're going to really enjoy hearing from her today. So thanks again. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, Barbara. So what I think we should do is we usually have the opportunity to go around and introduce ourselves. So we're going to try and do this Zoom-ish style. So I need to put my screen on gallery so I can see everyone. I'm going to call your name, and if you don't mind just quickly saying your name and your company, and we'll start with Renata.
All right, so I'll mute you myself, sorry. Try to be quiet when it's not my turn to speak. Hello, everybody. So my name is Renata Urban. My company is Urban Training and Services, and what I do is I offer language, intercultural, and communication skills training. I'm very excited to hear Marnie's presentation today. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Ms. Laura.
Hi, everyone. My name is Laura Gilly. I also work at Lynn University with Barbara Cambia. My role is alumni relations, so I work to connect alumni with each other and with students based on their career field or industry. So we always love being involved with the Chamber. Thank you.
We love having you involved with the Chamber. It's good to see you, Laura. Amy. Miss Amy Zach, I think you need to unmute yourself.
Okay, one second.
You there, Amy?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Sorry, I was late getting ready, so I'm not showing my face today.
That's fine.
Anyway, Amy Zach, Unique Gifts and Premiums. We provide you with concierge service for your needs for any type of promotional item that you might need to thank your clients, promote your business. And we're here when you need us.
Awesome. Thanks, Amy. Maureen, you need to unmute yourself.
Hi everyone, I'm sorry that my video is not on. I'm not really sure why it isn't working, but hello. Sorry we can't see each other in person, but I'm really glad to be here on this Zoom. I'm Maureen Yeager, and I'm the Director of Community Relations at the Gunster Law Firm.
All right, that was Miss Maureen Yeager. Good to hear from you, Maureen. How about Maureen Shia? Oh, you need to unmute yourself.
Okay, hi everybody, how are you? My name is Maureen Shea. I am the CEO of Right Management. We do career transition and organizational consulting, and I'm really anxious to hear our speaker today, particularly in the light of what our country and what our nation is going through. We need inclusion and diversity more than ever. So looking forward to it.
Thank you. Malka, I think, might be having issues. Yeah, we'll go to Mike Wolfson, the Wolf Man. Come on, king of the pack. Are you there, Mike? All right, Mr. Eric Solms.
How you doing? Eric Solms from Simplify, Simple IT for you.
Thank you. Mr. Gary White.
Hello, everybody. My name is Gary White. I am the president of Gary White Training and Consulting, an authorized partner with Wiley and DISC personality assessments. So I do executive coaching and leadership, as well as some things in mental wellness training. Glad to be here today.
Glad to have you. Thank you. Sharon.
Hello, how are you? I'm Sharon Arnett. I'm with Keller Williams, the Sharon and Karen Group. I'm a residential real estate agent and have been doing that here for 30 some odd years.
It's great to see you, Sharon.
Good to see you, Sarah.
Mr. Keith Spritz.
Hello, Keith Spritz. I'm a managing director at CBiz. CBiz is a public accounting firm and financial services firm. Nationwide, we have, I think, about 160 people in the local area here.
Wonderful. Thanks, Keith. And now, Tabitha, is that a background or is that a real background?
No, I wish that were my real background. You do not want to see what's back there. Virtual. That's the part of Zoom that I love, virtual backgrounds. Anyway, Tabitha Stambaugh. I'm a commercial relationship manager with Synovus, which is a bank. And I help small to medium-sized corporations grow their business, or right now just be a nice financial consultant in this uncertain times for people.
Thank you. Patricia.
Hi, everyone. My name is Patricia Cimino. My business is Patricia Cimino Coaching. I'm a personal coach, and I help people take their purpose, their passion, and their experience to pivot and shift into the next chapter of their lives. Great to be here.
Thank you.
Marnie's my new friend, so I'm excited to hear from you, Marnie.
Boy, Marnie's got a lot of new friends.
I know, it's great.
Very cool. Lauren, hello.
Good morning. I'm Lauren Cohen. I'm an international lawyer and global expansion strategist. I'm also a licensed realtor. I work with people that are expanding their businesses globally, and I've also been helping people access and use some of the funding that's available out there. And I've been part of IBA and the Chamber for some time. And so it's always fun in person, definitely more challenging on Zoom to connect, but I've been really keeping in touch with people and look forward to meeting. There's a lot of new people on here, which is awesome.
Very cool. Thank you, Lauren. Jody.
Hi, my name is Jody Barbarino. I am the Director of Corporate Talent Acquisition at Norwegian Cruise Line Holdings. I have been tasked with starting an official diversity inclusion initiative at the company. And so I was chatting with a cousin of mine who was born and raised in South Florida. I myself am new to South Florida, and she told me about this meeting today. So I'm so happy to be here.
That's awesome. Well, welcome.
Thank
Welcome.
you.
Tayanne.
Good morning, everybody. Tayani Oliveira, Brodsky Jacobs. We are a boutique law firm located in Coral Springs, and we practice in the areas of immigration, estate planning, bankruptcy, and the best for last, what I do, family law. We treat you like family, only better.
Very nice. Thank you. Teresa.
Oh, hi. Am I muted? No, I'm not. Hi, how are you? I am with Modern Etiquette Leadership Academy with Martine Pierre. This is a new business venture that we both are going together. At the very beginning, it's going to be virtual classes, but down the road, we're going to have it in presence. It's a very nice opportunity that Martine has created to start all the way from Victorian tea parties to corporate and to the millenniums and do the social etiquettes, the social distance and pretty much everything that is related to etiquette leadership. That's what
Awesome.
I'm
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Beth.
Hi, good morning. I'm Beth Wagmeister. I am an ADA, American with Disability Act inclusion specialist and consultant, independent. And I am contracted currently with the city of Boynton Beach as their ADA outreach coordinator.
Wonderful. Nice to have you on the call or the Zoom. Natasha. Natasha, you there? All right, let's go to Julio. Julio, can you hear us? You're muted. If you can hear us, unmute. All right, let's see where I'm at. Kathy Hurt.
Hey, hi, Sarah. So glad to be back among all of you with the Boca Chamber. My name is Kathy Hurt, and I work as the Community Impact Director for FHE Health. FHE Health is a behavioral health program based in Deerfield Beach and Boca Raton. So change your thoughts, change your world. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for all that you do. Jennifer. Okay, so what I'd say is whoever we missed, there's a few phone numbers. All right, we're done with introductions then. All right. Well, thank you all for doing this, for indulging me in all the introductions, but I think it's good for Marnie to know who she's talking to, and certainly there's already some great connections going on, with, the needs that are in this group, and some of you have some expertise that you can share as well. So this is definitely a round table discussion. We always have a keynote speaker that provides educational components. But if there's questions, you can type them in the chat box and we can wait until the end. Or if there's something that's pressing, I'm okay with interrupting and getting that more of a conversation going if you'd like. So we'll just kind of take it from there and see how it goes. So I am going to introduce and read the bio of Marnie, who's everyone's new friend. So she's going to be my new friend now too. And any friend of Barbara's is definitely a friend of mine. So, all right. So Marnie Omanoff is a diversity and inclusion and culture building professional. Marnie is able to leverage her storytelling expertise to help companies build their brands and influencers from the inside out. Marnie recently developed a customized diversity and inclusion strategy and plan for KKWC, a mid-sized New York City law firm. Prior to consulting, she had held a position as the Diversity, Inclusion, and Belonging, which is DINB, is the acronym, or the initials, lead at Verisk, where Marnie architected from the ground up Verisk's global DI&B strategy and framework. So the person from the cruise lines, I think you're definitely in the right place for this, especially if you're having to build something from the ground up. Marnie led programming execution across the 8,500 plus employee enterprise with the launch of the Employee Resource Group networks and communities. Prior to Verisk, she has in-depth leadership experience driving brand development and integration with companies such as American Express and Foot Locker. In these roles, she successfully fused together internal and external marketing communication strategies, as well as employee engagement and activation initiatives to drive high growth business results. She now resides in South Florida after moving last year from New York City. She's already made 100,000 friends, obviously, in her short year here. She's a graduate of Syracuse University's Newhouse School of Communications with a bachelor's in advertising, and it is my pleasure to have Marnie kick off the program. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the warm welcome and introduction, Sarah. Okay, let me pull up the slides and I will share my screen. Okay, so we've had the introduction. Just for content, we're going today to be talking about working together to drive business growth for the greater good. And obviously that's a pretty comprehensive topic, but really excited to dive in. We went through my bio. I thought I would start with a word cloud slide. I think that, visually, obviously, a lot of words here, a lot of concepts. Usually these clouds are developed, you start with keywords such as diversity and inclusion. And what I think, is really powerful is the words help frame, our conversation today, because we're going to cover a lot of different topics. And my goal is to make sure that we go over principles and constructs to help think about diversity and inclusion. And you'll hear me talk about D&I, so you'll know the acronym. And importantly, to think about what D&I means to you, your business or organization, and ways to fuel growth and innovation. Needless to say, these times are quite challenging for all. We're in the midst of a global health crisis. We have an economic crisis and all that comes as a manifestation of that. We need to band together against inequality and take action to drive systemic change. D&I work is just one powerful way to start making a difference. I thought, we would go a little broad and basic just to help, kick off the discussion. And as Sarah had mentioned, it's about education. And, what's a better way than just explaining diversity, the definitions of diversity and inclusion. So diversity refers to the differences and similarities that of all kind that matter to you, and that matter to your environment, that matter to your clients, stakeholders, and influence behaviors and actions. It's just not about gender or race or ethnic background. It's about mindsets and behavior shifts. Then with inclusion, it's a commitment to recognizing and appreciating the variety of characteristics that make individuals unique or different, and an atmosphere that promotes and celebrates individuals and collective achievement aligned to values. At the heart of every D&I program is the opportunity to create very intentional, meaningful connections with employees, communities we serve, and shareholders. Notice when I talk about diversity and inclusion, the emphasis is on the and. It's not diversity or inclusion. It needs to be pulled together because it's a very, the platform is very powerful and expansive. And you need both. So when we talk about why does D&I matter, I mean, again, as we referenced earlier in the call, I mean, it matters more than ever, and especially as we go forward. There's a lot of evidence that diverse and inclusive companies are more likely to make better, bolder decisions, which is a critical capability in a crisis. Also, a visible commitment to inclusion and diversity during the crisis is likely to strengthen companies' global image and license to operate. We've been seeing all over the news and media, I mean, messages from companies like Target and Nike, Disney, Visa, where it's not only the message that they're talking about, but the way that they're talking about it. You have CEOs writing letters, you have ads, you have social media posts. This is all where that connects, is you're elevating and activating these very important messages. Also, I think it's important just, you know, as we talk and ground the conversation, that, you know, just a few data points, research, just McKinsey's done a lot of wonderful work, and they do a series of research, and one of their most recent studies around diversity wins, how inclusive matters, just from last year. A few key data points. Diversity improves financial performance. Companies in the top quartile for gender diversity were 25% more likely to have above average profitability than those in the fourth quartile. I mean, business profits literally from D&I. Where companies with more than 30% of women executives were more likely to outperform companies by 48%, where this percentage ranged from 10 to 30. And in turn, these companies were more likely to outperform those with even fewer women executives, or none at all. This is at the heart. Every D&I program is the opportunity to create very intentional, meaningful connections with employees, communities we serve, and shareholders. And it really reinforces the point that inclusion drives performance. I'm going to jump to, this is really at the heart of our conversation and the presentation, that I thought, if you will, at a glance, there's a lot of information here. And I'm going to go through, you know, the framework, what I call the D&I framework. And I've used this as sort of a guiding principle and a platform. So at the top, we see the arrows, and foundational, progressive, and advanced. This is really the stage of, you know, for where you may be on your D&I journey. So foundational, for example, really is the launch phase. So usually from a timing perspective, this would be a company or an organization that's looking to either launch, or maybe, you know, has their practice in place for about 3 years. So foundational is usually about 0 to 3 years. Progressing is 3 to 5 years, and advanced is 5 years and more. And this again just helps you understand, you know, where different people are at with their D&I journey. Every D&I program plan needs to start with objectives. There, as I showed you on the first slide with the word cloud, it covers a massive amount of categories, of content, programming, but to keep, you know, to really help boil down this ocean, you have starting with clear objectives. So here's a few just to show the framing and the thinking, where you would create, you know, most companies want to create an environment where employees feel valued and recognized, developing diverse pipelines of talent, enabling to maximize their full potential. Another goal would be to build a workforce or a culture reflective of the markets you serve. And importantly, leveraging diversity to maximize return and impact to the business and our community, ever so important. Drilling down from once you have your objectives, this next tier where I have the components, really I like to use, and you'll see, culture, career, community, and commerce. I refer to them as the 4 C's. These are your North Star. These are your guiding principles. This helps really frame and think through your list of to-dos or what you're going to identify as your focus. So I'm going to walk through each pillar. And culture, starting with culture. This is about having your purpose, or sometimes referred to as your employee value proposition, EVP work. Critical, to really just start shaping and forming what the culture looks like. Then there's also governance and creating diversity councils. Again, another important piece of this work. Stakeholder engagement, making sure people are involved and engaged. Employee resource groups fit into culture. That's where employees start creating groups and affinity networks to connect, and it's referred to as ERGs. There's also the evolution of business resource groups that fit into this bucket, which would be BRG. And last but not least is brand reputation, which speaks for itself. Then moving on to career, which also is another very, very strong pillar. And this is where recruiting and onboarding and retention fit in as far as development and talent. Then we look at performance and pipeline management and growth within a culture. And there's learning and development training where companies have been focused on unconscious bias and harassment training, and really the academic and principles where employees are spending time and creating awareness around these very important areas. Career, also a very important foundation is around mentorship and sponsorship. And even more and more, we're hearing about allyship, whether it's internal or external in a company, but very, very important areas in career development. And then succession planning, which also very key. As we move on to community, looking at external focuses, around working with not just inside your company, but how do you also pay it forward outside your company? There's corporate social responsibility and also philanthropy work, developing high impact partnerships and programs to really build out your community strategies. And then commerce, and I should note that these are not in any order, and they work together, and they also can be focused on individually as well. So commerce is all about where the innovation comes for teams and companies to really leverage their culture and commitment to building in and building out your network. Building out new products, building out new offerings as a business, customer insights, looking at market penetration and supplier diversity. These are all very critical to really thinking about also, again, back to how do you build a revenue stream with all this great work. And as we move to the enablers I call really are like at the foundational level. And what's so important here is that it's really keeping in mind all of the things that you want to enable the work that you're going to do above because it is so vast, and you know, and you want to keep focus. But with the enablers, some examples are, why do we work on diversity and inclusion? And a lot has to do with making sure that top down, there's visible and consistent leadership support. It is so critical to make sure that we're leading by example. When we look at other enablers around diversity and inclusion, it's about not just internal communication and just doing what we think is the right thing to do inside a company, but importantly is, how do we communicate to outside our companies and let people know about all the great work that's being done. We, you know, think about also, very importantly, having plans and calendars. This has to really come alive inside and outside the company, where there are, you know, celebrating and educating about diversity-specific holidays. For example, May is Pride Month. In March, we have International Women's Month. There are months, there are days, and they all, you know, have very, very important significance, and they should be highlighted and celebrated. It really plays back into culture. Another key attribute is looking at a balanced set of metrics across the organization. It goes without saying, not only do we need to think about constructing the right plan, but making sure we can measure the impacts, and it has to be identified, you know, really from everything. You know, D&I needs to be brought into the conversation and measured as a very important business indicator. It's not just a program or project, it's really a mission and needs to be woven throughout the whole organization. And of course, with that, there's the important focus on budget allocation, making sure you have the right resources and people to really do all this great work. So that just, you know, in totality, at a glance, and it's a lot, but I just thought it would give you everyone a good snapshot of you know, successful D&I frameworks and ways to think about propelling D&I. As we, you know, I thought moving on to just not only take, if you will, the theory and the process, I just wanted to share a case study. And as was mentioned before, I recently just worked with a mid-size law firm, and they were, you know, coming to doing some D&I work really from the start. Actually, the firm had probably at least a 60-year-old history, and this was their first entree into doing a concerted program. And they just, you know, came to the place where they wanted to see improvements in creating diverse hiring practices, making sure that they're retaining, you know, the retention rates of employees were there, and then, and very importantly, having engagement and really thinking about how did they evolve their culture and build it out for the future. And I thought, just instead of, again, back to the theory around it, I would just also share some highlights on the approach, because it's a little bit of an art and a science. It's a lot around making sure you do the due diligence on conducting company and brand emergence, which mean, you know, understanding the business, not only from, you know, a business plan perspective, but also speaking to employees and key constituents from all levels. So you're really hearing from employees. And so important when you're really building out your plan. And then we also worked on looking at, outside of the company, best-in-class value leaders to make sure that we're thinking about best practices and ways to impact community programming and partnerships. That also, you know, again, just is another building block into building the right strategy and plan. And as, you know, as part of this work, it's not, you know, just, you know, part, when I reference science, it's the conversations and the brainstorming and really having a work session with the leadership team to customize and create what I refer to as right-sizing diversity inclusion planning. It is not a one-size-fits-all solution by any means, and it's a really exciting and methodical process because you're looking at at making sure you're just getting the best inputs from your teams internally and externally. And last but not least, the exciting part is when you get to the, delivering the final plan and giving framework, that is the pure joy, because you're taking all of the inputs and the actions and the metrics and budget, and you're really activating and actually launching the program, which is super exciting. So, that is really, kind of a very obviously quick, general framework, but I really wanted to thank everyone for, taking the time to listen. I hope you walk away with some more knowledge and insights on how you can apply it to your business or organization. And I'd be happy to help, if you have any further questions. My contact information's here, and definitely please reach out. But thank you for having me speak today.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for the slides as well. Kind of, made it trackable and it had it make sense and all of that. There's got to be some questions in the group, some comments. Again, those that have attended this particular event, it's definitely a conversation as well. So,
this is Chastity. I actually have a question that came in via email. This is, how do we get the entire company, including our leadership team, on board with diversity and inclusion initiatives?
Right. No, it's a great question. A lot of it is education and awareness. So it has to start with a conversation. Importantly, a lot of times leadership, like any business, you create goals and priorities for a company. So this has to come up as a priority. It literally becomes a business must-have. So whether obviously you're launching new products or you're creating new streams of business, this has to be identified as a priority and a goal, and literally written into the business plan.
How many small companies do you see that they're becoming like small businesses, micro businesses? They too are writing those things in their business plan. It's starting to become a norm, even for the smaller businesses.
Well, it really impacts. Listen, it's a lot of what I was referring before around either stage of D&I, and similarly as it relates to size of business. Taking all the info aside, it's just the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. In the context of the world we live in, whether it was yesterday or tomorrow, these practices where I had, some of the specifics, the tactics, for example, mentorship, right? That is big or small. Everyone needs a mentor, everyone, or a sponsor. So it's not, when I referred earlier to, because it is very overwhelming. There's a lot when you have companies that are very sophisticated and that have been doing it. But I also go back to, and just addressing the question, it's about defining what your purpose is as a company. What's your value statement? And that is something that it could be 2 people or it could be 200 people, right? It's just some of these it's taking the time to really be mindful and purposeful around the work you're doing, and as it relates to diversity and inclusion. I hope that, does that answer?
Absolutely, yeah. Well, when you said it, it's the right thing to do regardless, you know. But I didn't know, 10 years ago, there might not have been a position called diversity and inclusion, maybe 20 years ago. So it's great that we're seeing things taken seriously and companies moving forward. I just didn't know if it's gotten to the point of the small businesses as well, which I'm proud to hear it has. So that's good. Does somebody else have a question? Beth. Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. So I loved your presentation, Marnie. I love that you include people and asking them what they would like instead of making decisions for people. That's key. I have to just piggyback on that as far as the American with Disability Act. There's nothing for us without us. So when people are making policies and procedures and putting things in place for our inclusion of our disabled population, that might be customers, might be employees, might be whichever side of the fence they might fall, is to make decisions for the better of the disabled community without consulting with that community. It just will never work. And I know that there are cities nearby, without mentioning any of them, who are making decisions without consulting, getting feedback from the community. And this year, this July, marks the anniversary of the American with Disability Act. It's 30 years old. And so our diversity and our inclusion is just, we're so far behind, and it's a win-win situation. You know, if you make your policies and procedures and people want to come to your workplace, it's just a benefit for everybody. And just on the funding part for ADA is that there's so much funding available for making policies and procedures and making accommodations for the deaf, or not deaf, my focus is deaf, but all people that fall under the ADA. There's money available for small and large businesses. So it's a win-win. When people say, I can't afford to do this, or this is too hard, or, be careful, because there are a lot of businesses that should look at the lawsuits that could follow if people are not inclusive for their consumers. So I just wanted to say, great job. I have to steal some of your PowerPoints and work together on the ADA part of inclusion and of diversity in the workplace. So thank you for your wisdom.
Thank you.
What else?
I have a question. Thank you, Marnie, for the presentation as well. My question is, with the companies that you've worked with before, what kind of best practices for sustainability? And I guess basically it's one thing probably to kick off an initiative with diversity and inclusion. And then when we hit something like COVID, and some of the income, or the business income, kind of, for a lot of companies, came to a screeching halt. I guess naturally sometimes people go back to what is more comfortable or natural for them, and they may not prioritize as much diversity and inclusion and the humanity. So what kind of strategies have you seen for sustainability of these kind of initiatives?
Right. Well, I think in fairness, I mean, because we're all going through it, like the point in time, right? We're all sort of getting to this new, we all have to pivot and think differently. And it's just, if you will, real time. What I do suspect, though, is back to really keeping D&I at the forefront, meaning that it's part of the conversation and the planning. So things have to, again, with the shift in, if you will, in priorities, or companies are pivoting or putting their focus someplace else, you still want to make sure, instead of picking 5 things, pick 3 things, right? It can't lose, it might feel like you're going backwards, but it still has to be part of the mix. Because otherwise it's again, it's what I said, and I guess I'm trying to really emphasize the power of diversity and inclusion. It's not diversity or inclusion, right? Because they're powerful together, and that's how I think going forward needs to be thought of.
Good. Thanks for that.
looks like there's a question from Jennifer. How do you start a D&I in your company, and what are the responsibilities does a person or group take on?
Right. So starting, it goes back to, and it just, with that said, I don't know how large the company is or, but starting diversity and inclusion, if you just pick, for example, employee resource groups, or, and importantly, you have to have at least enough employees to create the group. But the beauty of employee resource groups, the way they form, they're so organic, because I like to say they're for the people, by the people. So an example of an employee resource group would be, it could be a women's network. It could be, a group on, on pride, LBGT, needs. It's taking a look inside your culture and bringing people together. So just back to, it just very simply, starting diversity and inclusion needs a plan. You need to have some key objectives, what you're trying to accomplish, and then make sure you build the plan from that. Because some companies really also, a lot of times D&I, when it sits in an HR organization, it can sit in different places in a company, but a lot of time it relates to, recruitment and talent and bringing in new employees. So it works on so many levels, but very simply, it's about thinking about some of the, the goals that you have at your company, and then how do they get translated into a D&I plan.
Thank you. Do you have any more questions or comments?
Sarah, I have one more if no one else does, real quick.
Sure.
Marnie, what kind of, I'm a big fan of when we hear topics like yours, it's good to get a quick snapshot of where we sit right now. Like you mentioned benchmarks, right? So what kind of organizational readiness tools do you use to see, because there are some companies who might feel as though they are very diverse and in D&I rich, should I say. So what kind of organizational readiness assessment, so they can get a good snapshot of where they are, the benchmark tell us where we want to go, and you, of course, with the consultation you provide, give us a roadmap with all of the other constructs to get there.
Right. No, that's a great question. I would say, building off of what, looking at a snapshot or a scorecard, because the most effective, and quite honest, tends to be a little bit more sophisticated, but it's looking at the data. So meaning when you say that if it's, really a very diverse population, believe it or not, right, I've worked big and small, but when you start looking at the data of the employee universe, you will be pleasantly surprised, that it's just, there's a lot of work to be done. So it's just going back to really the analytics and understanding what does it look like? And then with that said, really helping that inform and guide what comes next. And it could be because of gender, it could be related to race or ethnicity, but point being is it will be very telling to help shape and frame that scorecard.
Great questions. Thanks, Gary.
Awesome.
All right, last chance. Any more comments or questions? So like Chastity had said, we are recording this, and I believe we will be emailing you a link to the recording. So those slides, you can take screenshots, and you can definitely use that as the roadmap, because that was you made it very clear for those of us that are just getting started. So
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I guess, Chastity, if you want to chime in real quick and let us know what upcoming events are happening trying to look at my screen. Well, we do have our breakfast starting back up again. We had our breakfast last month with West Boca Medical Center. We had George Rizzuto speak, and it was unbelievable. We are now planning our virtual breakfast again for June 12th, June 11th, and it's with Office Depot. So I'm thrilled. That'll be a very interesting breakfast to hear from them. And, you know, I appreciate everyone taking their time, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Have
Marnie.
a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.